This is the state is just starting the audit process, so there wasn't an audit for us to refer to prior. You'd send in your permit, and they'd say, thank you, it's a complete permit application. So the audit process, all North Carolina municipalities are going through that. This will be our first audit, so it's a good benchmark of where we are and where we need to be. As some municipalities have gone through this process in the past, and we've contracted with an engineering firm that works closely with Department of Environment and Quality, we have a good idea what's going to be there, and we have a good idea of what our deficiencies are because of their gap analysis that was reported out prior. But the idea that you can go from having no program to have a fully compliant program for a town our size isn't realistic. So as reported out prior, incremental steps over time to get to compliance as far as our budget allows. And so, like everything else in the budget, staff will be providing their recommendation next spring, and the board will weigh those and put value on what's more important than other things, and including this program.
Jet trucks are cool, but they're also expensive.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you again.
I need to switch out staff. I'll be right back.
Yep. Our next item, item 4B, is a presentation of the Town of Wendell Americans with Disabilities Act Transition Plan. We're going to hear from Keith Pugh of Withers and Ravenel.
Okay.
Good evening.
Hello. And if you don't mind, I do seem to be able to talk better when I'm not filtered. And I do have a couple of written notes here because I do tend to talk a lot if left to my own vices, so I figured I would spare you a little bit and write some things down. My name is Keith Pugh. I just want to thank you, Mayor, thank you, Commissioners, for allowing us the opportunity to work on this project for the town. Thank everybody in attendance. Americans with Disability Act was put in place in 1990. The intent was to make goods and services and programs available to folks with all sorts of abilities. I'm assuming that will advance? Yes. I would like to start off with just reading through one of my printed statements here, and this is straight out of the executive summary of the report itself. The ADA plan is required under the provisions of the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's found under subsection 35-150, and it's the Title II regulations. Make sure I'm standing close enough to the mic. And it requires municipalities with 50 or more employees to establish an ADA transition plan. The general purpose of that plan is to ensure that all citizens have access to municipal facilities, programs, activities, and services. The plan focuses on the architectural and physical barriers to access. Town of Wendell meets that criteria because you employ approximately 61 full-time employees. Decision was made to complete a comprehensive review of the town's facilities in order to determine barriers to accessibility. And in compliance with the requirements of ADA transition guidance, this plan includes public outreach and public input. It identifies physical obstacles in the public entity's facilities that limit accessibilities of its program services and abilities to individuals with disabilities, or activities to individuals with disabilities. It describes in detail the methods that will be used to make the facilities accessible, and it specifies the schedule for taking those steps necessary to achieve compliance. And finally, it also indicates the officials with the town who will be responsible for implementing the plan. As part of this, the town also adopted an ADA position statement and an ADA grievance procedure. So all of these documents that we're working on have been reviewed for completeness, and it has been deemed sufficient for the purpose of this plan. Most of the documents that we analyze can be found in the appendix of this plan, and if you choose to read that appendix, it's probably because you have insomnia, because it is quite lengthy, the amount of information that's contained in those appendix. So first of all, would like to share with you this particular information, which just shows everything that goes into the self-evaluation and the transition plan for this ADA study. The ultimate goal of this is for all of your citizens, all of your visitors to be included in all of your programs, your activities, to have equal access to board meetings, any activities that the town has. So, during the public outreach process, we had approximately 54 members of the community that responded to that outreach. And out of those 54 folks, 52 of those believe the overall accessibility of the town's sidewalks, crosswalks, and other walkways is either neutral or poor. Most respondents believe the highest priorities should be to improve pedestrian access around commercial areas in downtown and through your parks and trail system. Approximately 63% of those folks felt that sidewalks are the single pedestrian facility that needs the most attention, and exactly half of those respondents believe that a lack of infrastructure is the primary barrier to access. Now, as we go through the self-evaluation part of this plan, I just want to point out that we are looking for problems. We're not going to raise the flag and cheer when we find things that are done right, because that's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for barriers. So if you read through the actual plan itself and it comes across as, wow, look at all this stuff that we're failing at, just remember that's exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for barriers in the system that need to be corrected to allow equal access to everyone. So it's not intended to be a slam necessarily on the town. What we do find, and we've done several of these studies across the state and South Carolina, and what we do find is most folks' reaction to the plan itself is, wow, that's a lot to get done. But we do like to point out that there are multiple items that don't appear in that plan because they're perfectly fine. They were done correctly, and they are acceptable. Another thing you have to remember is that in 1990, when this guidance came out to start with, or the law was passed to start with, the best practices at the time in 1990 have evolved to what is now considered a best practice. So there may be things that were done in the mid-90s that were thought to be ADA compliant that today may not necessarily meet the best practices. So let's look at identifying barriers. So during this process, we evaluated 606 different curb ramps throughout the town, and those are all included in the town's right-of-way on your public streets. The most common issue for noncompliance were cross slopes exceeding 2%. In Asheville, that might be fairly common because the topography is extremely different. In Havelock, North Carolina, virtually everything's flat, so they don't have to necessarily worry about cross slopes. The next most common issue is a lack of the 4x4 landings at the top of the ramps that are required for maneuverability. And the third most common is the lack of a tactile warning. ADA requires that you have either truncated domes or some other method of warning somebody that they are approaching the street or coming out of the street and up onto the sidewalk. Again, as you read through the plan, just remember that a single curb ramp can have multiple issues. So if we identified 1,000 problems with 500 ramps, you can have several different issues with one specific location. So don't try to read too much into that we're getting slammed on this. All of these facilities are evaluated based on PROWAG, which is the Public Rights-of-Way Accessibility Guidelines. It is an accepted standard that's used across the United States, and that is what we use to evaluate curb ramps. Second thing we look at are your public facilities. We did a thorough review of 12 of the town's facilities, and we did that review using ADAG, which is the Americans with Disability Accessibility Guidelines. Again, that is a standard that is accepted across the country, and we've got checklists that we go through on each of the facilities that we go in. So any facility that you have that is open to the public is allowed to enter into that space and use it. We have to assess those areas for ADA compliance. There are several things that show up frequently every time we do this, every community we go into. So again, please don't be offended or taken aback. But the most common things that we find: door closers. When you open a door, you can't have more than 5 pounds of pressure required to open the door. Grab bars in restroom areas, proper mounting height, location of those, partition widths. You have to have certain distance on accessible stalls in restrooms. Do you have the appropriate signage for these things? Do you have landing areas inside the door to where a person in a wheelchair can turn and the door not get caught in the wheelchair? Those type things. Are your thresholds coming into your facilities, are those acceptable? We also look at your outdoor facilities and common non-compliance items there, slopes in parking lots, slopes on your sidewalks coming up to your buildings, parking lot striping, crosswalk striping, again, signage. And then the next item we have to look at once we've identified barriers is we have to look at methods to remove those barriers. So when we look at your buildings, can we relocate those grab bars? Can we relocate towel dispensers, soap dispensers? Can we move partition walls to create adequate stall widths? Can we adjust closers? Do we need to change which way the door swings? Those are all things that we look at and consider when we're trying to resolve some of the barriers to access for your vertical facilities. Same thing in the pedestrian network. When you're out on the sidewalks on the street, can the ramp be modified as it currently is and simply modified to become compliant? Can we add tactile warnings? Can we add a navigable platform or at the top of the ramp? Or do we need to remove the ramp and completely rebuild it? Do we need to put in handicap ramps accessing your buildings from the streets, those kind of things. In all of those, and one other element that we look at are your programs, activities, and events that are hosted by the town itself. Do you have a July 4th event? Is there adequate handicap parking for that? Do you use your town facilities for that? If so, we've identified ways to get in and out of your town facilities as part of the vertical network. And the parking, again, we have to look at that as far as van accessible spaces, slopes, accessible routes. Another part of this plan is that we have to come up with an implementation schedule, and this is a fiscally constrained schedule for making the improvements to bring the town into compliance. So not only do we have to identify where the barriers are, we have to come up with solutions to those barriers, and then we have to come up with a fiscally constrained schedule to eliminate those barriers, to make the improvements that get rid of those barriers. Typically, the timing of this, the plan itself, once it's reviewed and okayed and everybody's happy with the content of the plan and the direction to move forward, once that plan is adopted, then you would look at your annual budget and determine, how much can we set aside to start making some of these improvements. A lot of these things are quick hit kind of things, a door closer. It's not going to cost a whole lot of money. Some folks absorb that into their regular operation and maintenance budget, and we'll swap those out. We've done it in 5 facilities. That takes care of that issue. Check that one off the list. But a lot of times we find that the O&M budgets have to be increased because if you have to change the door swing, you may have to replace the entire frame of the door, and if you do that multiple times, it's going to result in those budget dollars not being spent where they were originally intended, and then suddenly they're going for this. We may have larger improvement items like having to regrade a parking lot. I don't know that that's specifically the case here, but we've had those in the past. Those tend to become CIP type projects, so you'll go ahead and budget for those in future years, and then as those dollars become available, you'll go ahead and make those improvements and knock it out. The implementation schedule that we've identified in this plan is a 5-year horizon. Final element for an ADA transition plan for any municipal agency is that you have to identify an ADA coordinator and an ADA administrator. The coordinator is that individual who on a daily basis, if there's a complaint from the citizens or there's some sort of grievance that comes in, that is the individual who's responsible for basically running it down. In this case, it's Debbie Kennedy, your HR director, and I'm sure she's thrilled about that. But her role is not necessarily to fix the issue, but it's to document the issue and start the process for evaluating that and whether or not corrections need to be made. And then if the plan needs to be modified to incorporate that additional issue into the plan, it's her job to make sure that that happens. Also have to name an ADA administrator as part of this plan, and typically that is the individual in charge of the human, financial, and other resources available to that agency. Typically it is the manager, and in this case it is Mark Collins, town manager, and that individual will be the one who could set priorities on improvements and make sure that the dollars are set aside and that the resources are allocated to make those corrections. Again, at the end of the day, the whole idea is that the town will be accessible to all folks who either live here, visit here, work here. They'll be able to participate in your programs. They'll be able to participate in government. They'll be able to walk on your streets and use your sidewalks and get to your businesses. But at the end of the day, it's an attempt to include everyone in what the town has to offer. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you may have. And again, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that the town hall that we're getting ready to build, all of those considerations were taken in before.
Yes, sir. So the town is actually getting ahead of this a little bit because of some projects we have and some partners projects we have going. There were a number of ADA compliance issues with this facility. It's one of the many reasons why updating this facility and expanding here was a more costly option than building a new site. If the board recalls from several years ago, the initial analysis of Town Hall. And that did show out to be accurate with the ADA inspection of this facility. The new facility is fully ADA compliant, so basically one of those 12 facilities that were reviewed is completely done with this year's budget with the Town Hall, which is a large chunk. Another area dealing with the parking lot was at the Senior Center. Wake County has on their capital project schedule redoing that parking lot for the library and Senior Center, and they've committed to do everything from parking lot to the door for the Senior Center. So that takes a chunk of the Senior Center list. The neighborhood improvement program that was funded in the budget as well helps with the West Academy, Cook Street, and one of the cross streets there as well, ADA accessible. A number of the crosswalks are also intersections with state roads, and the state's doing about 28 intersections in their budget this year as well. So there's a large number of these items that we're getting a head start on in this year's budget, and much like the last presentation, staff will evaluate the presentation once adopted and incorporate that into future CIP and help prioritize that with the board and with public input on that. No action on this item tonight. The full document will be sent out to the board tomorrow morning. Allow y'all 2 weeks to a month to review the document in case there's any additional questions prior to adoption.
So the way I heard it described, is this a process? This is the first time that I think at least I've been through this process with this board. Is this a process that we can expect to see every 5 years moving forward?
Yeah, it's a living document. If you do everything on here, there's always new facilities, new programs. There's a constant evaluation of everything we do. The ADA coordinator can receive concerns from the public where they may find something that wasn't in the initial, or something may degrade that's compliant now that may not be compliant in 3 years. So yeah, it's a constant review based on public input and evaluation of our infrastructure and facilities with periodic updates.
And one for Mr. Pugh. At the beginning, you gave us a string of words that included public right-of-way access. Can you give me that string?
Oh, the two acronyms. One is PROWAG, P-R-O-W-A-G. It's the Public Right-of-Way Accessibility Guidelines. And the other one is ADAG, A-D-A, A-D-A-A-G. And it's the Americans with Disability Act Accessibility Guidelines. So PROWAG and ADAG.
Thank you. This is the second time that I've heard about PROAG in like the last 3 weeks, and I appreciate you bringing it up and wanted to say it again so I can put it on staff's mind for future UDO changes and the ways that we can incorporate some of those standards out of the gate. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
It's my understanding those things would be incorporated moving forward. Is that correct?
Yes, they're required now.
Right.
And there's a greater sensitivity of the inspections when a community becomes subject to ADA due to its growth and size as Wendell. If you think that most of the older sections of town had their infrastructure built prior to ADA. So there's no expectation, or don't have infrastructure.
Right.
So there's no expectation for large sections of Wendell to not be compliant right now. And there's, as we improve things, as we fill those gaps in sidewalks, part of every contract that's issued and let by the town has a requirement for ADA compliance inspection at the end prior to we take over that infrastructure.
Right. Thank you. Well, thank you for being with us tonight.
Absolutely.
This is something kind of close to my heart. I was telling the manager, my mother, my late mother, was in a wheelchair for many years, and until you've been with someone who experiences some of these things, you're not really aware of simple things like the location of the soap in the restroom and things like that, and how that can be a hurdle for them. So thank you for that, and thank you to our Human Resources Administrator, Ms. Kennedy, for wearing another hat for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
I need to swap staff out one more time.
Okay. Okay, we'll move into section 5, our public hearings. The public comment process was provided in advance of the meeting tonight. The public had the opportunity to submit written comments to the town, attend in person, or submit a request to call in. Everyone will have 5 minutes to speak. We only have people who are present here tonight that I suspect there's some folks in here present that want to speak, but we had no call-ins or comments sent in. So item 5A is a public hearing for a non-contiguous annexation for 2 parcels totaling approximately 121,331 acres, 29.2017 acres for PIN number 1783420133, and 92.1294 acres for PIN number 1783410646, located at 0 Lake Glad Road and 1005 Lake Glad Road. Mr. Coates.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Brian Coates. I'm the Planning Director for the Town of Wendell. The first public hearing before you tonight is for a non-contiguous annexation of 2 parcels. Thank you, Mayor, for reading those PIN numbers and the acreage. The properties are currently located in the Wake County Planning Jurisdiction, are currently zoned Residential 30. The applicant submitted an application to rezone the parcels, which is your next public hearing. The parcels are located in the Town of Wendell's urban service area and are eligible for annexation. The proposed annexation area would require services from the town's police, public works, parks and rec departments if annexed and developed. Secondary service impacts will be incurred by other town departments, such as planning. The property is already served by the Wendell Holmes Fire District. Water and sewer is readily available to the property and provided by the Wendell service area by the City of Raleigh Public Utilities. Specific impacts are dependent on the use, density, and design of development and subject to approvals for utility allocations and land use. And we can have anyone speak who'd like to speak to the public. I can field any questions you have on the annexation.
Okay, well, let's open the public hearing, and are there any questions from the board?
I have one quick one.
Sure.
It says water and sewer are readily available. Are they going to be extended to get there, some small distance, or it's already running past the park?
So the sewer is actually the Fred Smith Pump Station that's under construction to the east of the site across Buffalo Creek. So there'll be a sewer extension that was on the current plans. It's showing going into the property in the south. They've readjusted those plans, and the sewer would cut across the southern border of their property and the neighboring property through an easement to connect to that pump station that's under construction. Water is readily available just to the north on Lake Glad Road.
Okay. So it would run across Buffalo Creek there at the bottom of the picture?
And connect to the pump station that's under construction.
Okay.
Anything else from the board right now? All right, are there any citizens here that want to comment? You can come up one at a time. And give me your name and address, please.
Thank you for letting me be here tonight to speak, Madam Mayor and Board of Commissioners. My name is Elizabeth Todd White, and I'm here tonight with my husband, Ralph White. We actually live in Wilson, but we have property in Wendell. We own a 60-acre farm on the southern boundary of the Edwards property that is being considered for annexation rezoning. This piece of property is currently used for both recreation for our family and for agriculture, which means large farm equipment go in and out regularly. I also own a private, permanent, surveyed, and deeded 60-foot wide easement that extends from our farm along the southern edge of the Edwards property to Lake Glad Road. This easement allows us access to our farm. No one, including the developer, can take away, change, or move this permanent easement without our written permission. I have copies of our deed of easement if anyone would like to see that. We received our first notification of this development plan late Friday, October 15th, by first-class mail. Fortunately, we were home and in town to receive it. This only gave us 1 week to study the plan and scramble to educate ourselves in order to be prepared for this meeting. Unfortunately, we were not invited to the technical review meeting held earlier in the year. The drawings clearly indicate 9 houses are planned on our right-of-way in Phase 2 on page C1.3. The current plan also shows a sewer easement across our property to Buffalo Creek. Neither of these issues have been discussed with us. We met with 2 Wendell planners on Tuesday, October 19th, and presented a written list of our concerns regarding this plan, highlighting the issues of our access easement and the sewer assessment. My goal tonight is to enter into the public record that before this plan can be implemented, some changes to the plan will have to be made. My husband and I are willing to negotiate with the developer for a mutually agreeable alternative access. We're also concerned about the density of the lots adjoining our farm. Increasing the lot size would be a more prudent and reasonable rezoning request for property beside an operating farm. The current plan shows 31 homes to be built directly adjoining our farm. That is a lot of people using our farm as an extended backyard. We are concerned that our farm will become a trespasser's paradise, causing increased liability for us and safety concerns for those who are uninvited visitors. Finally, there is no appropriate privacy buffer to minimize trespassing. In closing, we are committed to being good neighbors and a reasonable partner in negotiating improved outcomes for all concerned. However, approval for any rezoning annexation should be postponed until these issues are resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Give me your name and address, please.
My name is Carol Jurgen. I live at 113 Combs Court, Wendell. My property, if you look at the yellow area on the screen, my property is just about center and just directly up just a little bit from center there. My address is 113 Combs Court. Combs Court consists of 6 homes situated on 1.5 to 2.5 acre lots in the subdivision referred to as Blair Hills for the past 40 years and is zoned R30. Combs Court lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 are adjoining properties to the Edwards property. My home is lot 2. rezoning the Edwards property to R4 conditional district and allowing 277 units on 122 acres minus large areas of floodplain and wetlands will create an immediate and abrupt contrast in neighborhood characteristics. The high-density development is not reflective of our neighborhood. I would ask that the Edwards preliminary plan be reconsidered and request a revised plan be drawn, offering fewer units with wider green space and buffers between adjoining properties. An increased buffer area between the adjoining Combs Court is especially desired. I am not seeking any monetary objective, nor attempting to maximize profit from an investment, but only willing to be supportive to a smooth transition between adjoining properties that respects and appreciates the rights and privileges of all parties in the community. I am in favor of growth for Wendell and its surrounding neighborhoods. The need for diverse housing developments is important, and careful planning for both existing properties and new projects is a serious responsibility of this board. Thank you so much for listening to my comments.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I don't have a speech like those ladies.
That's okay.
Quite
Give me your
not
name and address. That's all we need.
Jason Williams, I live at 201 Wythe Lane. I'm in the cul-de-sac at the end of Wythe Lane.
Okay.
And based on the plans that we see, we have a road that's gonna come through our front yard. It would be Street F on the map. There's no deeded right-of-way there. Doesn't seem to be, it could be taken by eminent domain, considering you just told me that sewer and water are readily available. We would, however, like to see an environmental impact study done on the land that's gonna be developed. It has multiple wetlands that are being mitigated and will be damaged. You can say you're gonna put up a silt fence, but I work for the Department of Agriculture as an agronomist. I see how much silt fences do. And we'd like to see a environmental impact study done on the sewer coming across Buffalo Creek. It is one of the few lasting cypress swamps in North Carolina, or in Wake County, and it is the major watershed for Wendell. You could only imagine what could go wrong with a sewer easement going over the top of a swamp. And with that, that's all I got, really. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Dan Edwards, and I live at 155 Lutom Lane. I am not related to the Edwards, who are the sellers of the property, but I am related to Miss White, who is my sister-in-law. When she spoke to me and asked me to look at this plan, my father-in-law, 35 years ago, purchased a piece of property from Ms. Edwards' father and mother, the Honeycutts. When he bought the piece of property, he was insistent that he had a recorded easement that made the property developable. It's interesting to me that when I look at the plans that were submitted to the Town of Wendell Planning Department, even though the easement is referenced, the date book and the page on the easement, the designer and the developer, the engineer, has 9 lots that are specifically located in the easement. 8 of the lots, 50% of the easement is part of the developable lot. It's pretty obvious to me that nobody in the planning department referenced the deed. Bass, Nixon, Kennedy didn't pay any attention to the deed, nor did the developer. Or why would it have shown on the plans? It also shown on the plans a sewer easement attained from my sister-in-law on the back side of the property. No one ever contacted her about anything. The other thing is, if the town of Wendell would like the Lake Glad corridor to develop as a growth area for the town, why would you contemplate running a sewer line across a swamp in an environmental sensitive area versus running down Lake Glad, the right-of-way on Lake Glad Road? It makes no sense to me if the town is planning ahead for this corridor to be developed. The third point is, basically, this area that is being sought to be annexed as a non-contiguous annexation is not compatible with anything around it. The homes in Blair Hills are 1 acre lots. The other adjacent properties are farmlands. The only thing that's contiguous that is adjacent to it is through a swamp on the backside, which is the property that's being developed, which is R7. So it's not compatible with anything in the area. You know, citizens come up all the time, and it's the job of the planning department, the planning board, but most of all, the commissioners, to do what's in the best interest of the citizens and taxpayers of the town of Wendell, or in this case, the people in the ETJ. The question and the answer needs to be, it's not if it's legal, I'm for it, it's in the best interest of the citizens and the taxpayers of the town. This proposal for an annexation needs a lot of further work. It is full of inaccuracies and omissions. The developer is basically telling you, annex me into town, give me the maximum density development you allow, and I'll fill in the blanks later. That's not a way to do business, and it's not protecting the citizens and taxpayers, and in this case, the people in the ETJ. The only other thing that I'd like to say is, as my sister-in-law said, I don't know if it's a state statute or Wendell Town ordinance, but the Postal Service has said that the first-class mail is going to be delayed. 10-day notice for a public hearing is not enough notice. It needs to be at least 30 days. If you have the power to change that, please do. You need to change the ordinance. You have the discretion to decide if the zoning is too dense or not. In this case, look at what's around it. It's obviously too dense for a non-continuous annexation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Robbie Bell. I'm the engineer of record for this project. I'm with Bass, Nixon, and Kennedy, 6310 Chapel Hill Road. I've listened to some of the comments, and yes, we were aware of that access easement. We had state evaluation on the wetlands and the buffers, and we have those documented. The vast majority, or half of that easement, is in a riparian buffer and cannot be accessed. And I think that's why the path that goes to Mrs. White's goes across Mr. Jones's property and eventually works its way back up into the Edwards property, then swings back through the Edwards outside of the easement and then back down. But that being said, we're planning to provide 2 points of public access to their property, which then their property is not landlocked at that point, theoretically. The sewer easement, we are crossing underneath the stream, but we're boring jacking underneath there. We're going underneath the stream about 300 feet underneath the stream, so there's no environmental impact on that. The water line is coming down Glad Lake Road, and it's the line there now is undersized. It's a 6-inch main, and we're bringing a 12-inch main in there to upsize the line. This is at a tune of about close to $2 million worth of infrastructure. We work very closely with the city of Raleigh on the pump station. That pump station actually is designed for Fred Smith's project and the Edwards to make it work. It was taken into consideration. We work very closely with their engineers in the town. The density, 2.25 acres. This is very similar to a Wake County COSD subdivision, Consolidated Open Space Subdivision. Quite a bit of our lots are back up to open space. The stub road to the north in the rear back there, we did not want that, but that was required by the town, because they've got a connection policy. You know, several years ago, one of the members of True Homes reached out to Mrs. White's son and talked to him. I don't know what was said, but that person is no longer with True Homes. So I don't know what more I can say, is that we try to dot our I's and cross our T's. So if you have any questions, I was waiting for the site plan to get up and talk about these issues, but these items. But I felt like I needed to get up at this point.
All right. Are there any questions from the board? Is there anyone else that would like to? Are there any questions from the board, first of all? Okay.
Can we hear the citizens'
Yeah,
deal, please?
yeah, come on.
No one has officially, my son has no right to make any decisions. He is a student doing his residency, and I contacted him, and he tried to explain that to me on the phone, and that was no official. It was if it was anything, it was at a bar conversation, something like that, but nothing official. My son has no rights to the land at this point.
Are you the owner of record?
I'm the owner on record.
Is your son the owner on record?
No.
Okay.
He has no rights at this point in his life in decision-making for that piece of property. And I feel like I'm trying to be blown off, and it's very concerning. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, anyone else? All right, are there any questions from the board? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Don Whitworth. I live at 835 Lake Glad Road, and certainly heard a lot of good reasons to maybe not go full steam ahead with this project. Sounds like there's some inconsistencies that need to be addressed. All I was going to point out was that if you've driven on Lake Glad Road, it's not exactly a great thoroughfare. There are half a dozen blind curves. It's a narrow road. It's not designed to carry a lot of traffic. And I would ask you to consider that as you consider what density is appropriate for this piece of property. And I would also ask you what the rationale is for the rezoning at all. Does Wendell need more dense development? Do we have enough? Do we need more? Do we want to have an area that is maybe never going to be densely developed, like an overlay district, which we have for other functions? I would just ask you to consider that.
Thank you.
Just real quick, Josh Ranke, 5808 Farrington Place, Raleigh, North Carolina. So once again, I was going to save for the site, but just wanted to address that a traffic impact analysis was conducted. We are doing some widening along Lake Glad to the ultimate section, as well as some off-site improvements that I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if it's more appropriate at the site. I just want to say, that is addressed. It's something I know it's brought up, so I wanted to say a traffic impact analysis was done, and I'm happy to answer any questions now, or if we want to dive into that more in the site. It is something, we had improvements at 4 study area intersections that are being considered, as well as widening along Lake Glad along our frontage to the ultimate section.
I don't have any questions for you at this time. I don't know if the board does, but do you?
Well, do we want to move on
I
to
really
site
feel
specific?
I really feel like that's something for later. I think
Right.
we need to talk about the annexation right now.
Understood.
But I understand you feeling like you need to jump in.
I just wanted to make sure everybody knows it is addressed. It's nothing that the team's neglecting.
We
It's
have,
just-
We
I
just for
understand.
record, we have a whole other PowerPoint on the specifics of the development at that public hearing that we will be giving,
Right.
which
But
has.
I
so-
think folks feel like once things are annexed, sometimes the ball's rolling down the hill, and they want to talk about that.
Madam Mayor, I was gonna make a suggestion, and
Yeah.
I can't believe Commissioner Deloach hadn't made it yet. But the 2-week rule that we've used in the past,
Yes.
this seems like a perfect opportunity for that. And then would allow us to, because all of my, annexation is either you want it or you don't. All of my questions are very site-specific, but I listened to about half of the planning board meeting, and I heard Brian about half of what he had to say then, and I figured delaying it would allow us to go through that part of the process tonight too, so we can listen to the site-specific stuff.
So do you want to hold on the annexation? Is that what you're saying?
I would suggest that we hold on both items.
Yeah.
And just allow us to continue working through it tonight. That way we can all hear that presentation without the vote.
Would you like a motion for that, Mayor? Or do you need to close the hearing first?
Well,
Or Mr. Attorney or Manager?
we need to hear from town staff, though, regarding some of the things that came up. I mean,
On which issue, were you still talking about the annexation issue?
yeah.
If I may. Sure. Does the board have any specific questions for staff that they want to have answered tonight on the annexation part? Most of the issues that were raised deal with the conditional rezoning
The site.
application. That's the second public hearing. We're glad to answer any annexation specific, but it sounds like the second item, to your point, Commissioner, is driving most of the questions and are related to that. If there's anything related to town service and can it be served, yes, it can. And glad to answer any question to that, but most of the concerns that I was hearing from the public deal with the actual development. It's in the county. The town cannot zone it until it's part of the town. And so, this public hearing goes first. Once it's in the town, then the board has to set zoning for the property because it's no longer county zoned in the town, it's town zoned. So the town has to establish a zoning district. So that's the reason for the order of the process. Understanding that a delay would also allow you to, at this point, closing the public hearing and tabling would allow you to have the decision, further discussion and decision on the annexation at the next meeting after you've benefited from both the public comment related to the development, rezoning, as well as the presentation from staff and the developer. Is that clear as mud?
So hold the other public hearing tonight as well? Okay. There were some questions regarding annexation. There were some comments regarding annexation and
Are there,
it being non-contiguous and some things like that. I mean, there was some, and the water and sewer and availability and that kind of thing. So, I think we were kind of dancing around it, but it somewhat goes to both.
yeah. Brian, perhaps you can talk about TRC, the availability of water and sewer, there's a second point there, the contiguous versus non-contiguous, how it's allowed under that provision.
Yes, so state law allows the town of Wendell and other towns in North Carolina to have satellite annexations, this is a satellite annexation because it's not contiguous to our core, very similar to Wendell Falls or other projects that don't touch our contiguous core part of the town. We can annex 3 miles out from our contiguous core. So this property falls well within that, as our core is South Hollybrook, and then the newer section of Blair Hills is actually in our city limits as well. The utility services are nearby, whether it's sewer at the Fred Smith or sewer further up Lake Glad, and water is available Lake Glad as well. So The extensions would be paid for by the developer. The town does not pay for those sewer and water extensions to reach that property. The property is in urban service area for Wake County, so it's expected to be urbanized and part of Wendell in the future. The county, when it designates everything that's not in the water supply watersheds, which are Falls Lake, Little River, parts of Swift Creek, are in what we call urban service areas, and those are areas expected for towns to grow into. So each town has urban service areas, and this is in our urban service area and eligible for annexation and meets state law requirements.
Brian, to clarify the mayor's question again on water and sewer, is the water and sewer located in the place that Raleigh asked it to be? Because they handle our water and sewer service. In TRC, is
Yep.
this the location that they asked the developer?
Yes, so as the applicant did mention, the water and sewer infrastructure meets City of Raleigh. They're part of our TRC process, and they have, this project meets all of their guidelines for installation of water and sewer.
I have a question for you. If we're speaking, sorry, I'm really close to that. If we have a situation where we have area between, I guess I'll ask this question first. Where is, regarding excluding the Fred Smith property, where is the nearest water tie-in? Then if we were to, if that was not an option, where would they be running water from?
So the current water is up here that serves the newer part of Blair Hills.
Okay.
It's a water connection. And they're gonna upgrade this to reach down here, and then all of the neighborhood will be served by water service.
So, but they're not running it from Blair Hills down, are they?
Yeah, they are, yeah, mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So then help me understand, forgive my ignorance here, then what is the difference in what they're running from the Fred Smith property across versus, so they're running sewer from there and they're running water down from the other one?
The sewer, the pump station that Fred Smith it's under construction, is designed to handle additional capacity beyond what is planned for the Fred Smith project. So having that flow over to that pump station, and then it's through a force main that is pumped up to Lake Glad and then jets across to Wendell Falls through another force main, and then eventually goes to the Neuse River wastewater plant in East Raleigh. And the force mains are needed to push the sewer up hills and across things to reach the sewer plant based on elevations.
Okay. All right, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I know we always do it like this, where we look at annexation and the site plan, all this stuff kind of separate. I know why we do that. To me, it's always in my mind, it's looked at as a whole project still. I have issues with the annexation, but I think for the purpose of the board, it makes sense if we just heard it all today, and then we can hear everything and then come back in 2 weeks and then rediscuss it. So.
Is that it? Are you done?
Yes.
Okay, all right, we'll close the public hearing. And,
Madam Mayor,
yes,
motion to table this item until the November the 8th meeting.
all right, we have a motion to table this item until November 8th. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, item 5B is a public hearing to rezone approximately 121.33 acres from Wake County Residential 30 to Town of Wendell Residential 4 Conditional District for the Edwards Property Subdivision.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The applicant's requesting to rezone 2 parcels located off Lake Glad Road from Wake County Residential 30 to Town of Wendell Residential 4 Conditional District to create a single-family residential neighborhood. The applicant's proposal features 276 single-family homes and 38.26 acres of open space. The parcels are located in the Town of Wendell Short-Range Urban Service Area and designated as community in the Wake County Land Use Plan. The address 1005 and 0 Lake Glad Road. The 2 PIN numbers are mentioned. As you know, the annexation was petitioned. Current land use agricultural, proposed use single family. Property owners are William and Gail Edwards. Applicant is Robbie Bell of Bassnix and Kennedy. Neighboring residential zonings to the north is RA or R30. To the south is residential 30. The east is RA and R4 conditional district, and the west is R30. Those are primarily all residential zoning, whether it's in the county or in the town. The request is for R4 conditional district, which has a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet and a minimum lot width of 50 feet. The applicant is proposing a minimum lot size of 6,000 with the minimum lot of 50. However, they're also providing a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet along Combe Court and Wythe Lane. The applicant's proposal meets all the setbacks within the R4 zoning district for single-family homes. This is just a chart showing their proposal versus the requirements. On side setback, it's 20% of the lot size, and so they're proposing actually 10% on each side. UDO does allow that you could shift that, so one side may have a bigger, but they're proposing to have it equal throughout the proposal, 10% on each side. Overall site plan, on the left-hand side is Lake Glad Road. We'll go over road improvements on that side. There's some open space over here as well, a multi-use athletic field, small parking area, and sidewalks that serve to the open space. To the east of Lake Glad, you'll see there's different residential pockets with stormwater ponds and open space. And then on the far eastern side is actually the Buffalo Creek, some of the floodplain and the waterways. Stormwater ponds throughout. There's various stormwater ponds. The areas in green contain some form of some wetlands and some wet soils. And we'll go over some of the details of the plan in the next few slides. The applicants propose the following zoning conditions. Limit the use to single-family residential, including any allowed accessory uses. So that means residents could have sheds, things like that in their backyard that is typical accessory units. Limit the single-family density to 2.4 dwelling units per acre. All single-family lots adjoining residential lots on Combe Court or Wythe Lane shall be minimum 10,000 square feet. They are requesting a waiver to block length, and I'll go back to the site plan just to show you. So Street E is longer without breaks than our UDO requires, and it's simply because the Wake County subdivision just to the north is all cul-de-sacs, and there's no place to connect or have street connectivity is what our ordinance prefers. The only connectivity, which is not going to happen probably anytime soon, is Street F ends before. So to actually connect with the cul-de-sac that's here, property owners that, like the gentleman spoke, would have to sell us the land to actually extend the street. However, in the future, we still, as planning staff, we want to be able to get connectivity, any kind of chance we can get for mobility purposes. So the reason they're asking for that length exception to our rule is there's no place to connect to the north because of the Wake County subdivision that was done years ago. Request waiver to the sub-street requirement, which is related to that same street. They are providing additional 2 acres of park space than our UDO requires. They did add one section of one-way streets to create a central open space and improve accessibility. So around the open space, there is a 67-foot collector that goes through the center of the neighborhood. They actually, around the amenities in the middle, have it one way. And so they've created 2 kind of 20-foot, 21-foot one-way streets around that open space to slow traffic down, and it also provides a different amenity for the neighborhood. They're requesting a deeper front yard setback on cul-de-sacs, but will not exceed 30-foot setback. Decorative garage doors shall be utilized within the development and shall include carriage hardware or windows. Vinyl siding materials used on the building facade shall be a high-quality, show texture, and have a minimum width of 5 inches and a minimum thickness of 0.046. On the scale of vinyl, that is an upgrade. It is not a basic vinyl. It is a higher quality that we've had a few other developments utilize. It's just more durable, looks better, and the width of it is creates a better visual appeal from the street. No single-family home shall have a front exterior elevation that is identical to a home within 2 lots along the same side of the street or homes that are directly across the street. This zoning condition is monitored by planning when they submit building plans so that the homes are not the same elevation. All homes shall use roof eaves which extend at least 6 inches from the facade plane. 100% of the homes shall be Energy Star certified. Foundation shall be a raised monolithic slabs with a minimum of 12-inch exposed concrete adorned with stucco, parged finish, above finished grade. All homes will also have a minimum 20% of front facade will be either brick, stone, or vinyl accent material. And then a 10-foot wide type B buffer shall be provided along the southeast boundary of the pin mentioned for a distance of 412 linear feet in the east-west direction and distance 225 linear feet in the north-south direction. This buffer is intended to provide a visual buffer between the active amenity area and the adjacent properties. Also, condition 17, lots 53 through 59 appear to have double frontage along Lake Glad or a local street, and this is requiring that they cannot have driveways on Lake Glad. We want to have Lake Glad serve as a collector. Public utilities, as we mentioned, the site will require connection to city water and sewer, which is available nearby. The parcel does need to be annexed before utility service can be granted. Environmental, the applicant will need to obtain stormwater, sedimentation, erosion control permits from Wake County Environmental Services before any site work can commence. The proposed development plan will need to meet the requirements of the town's UDO as well. Wake County does provide stormwater, sedimentation, and erosion control services for the town of Wendell. The proposed plan does show 7 stormwater management ponds. The eastern portion of the site along Buffalo Creek does contain floodplain. The floodplain is included within the designated open space. The site does contain some wetlands, and the applicant will need to obtain any permits for any disturbance. Buffers. UDO requires a type B buffer anytime a more intense use is proposed next to single-family residential. The proposed development plan does include a 20-foot undisturbed type B buffer along the northern border that abuts the large lot single-family residential to the north. So Combe Court and Wythe Lane will have that 20-foot buffer. The buffer requires a tree every 25 feet, shrub every 6. However, an undisturbed buffer may not need any additional plantings as you encourage that existing vegetation to stay there. But if, for some reason, when staff goes out before any homes are occupied, the buffer needs additional plantings, those are required. Also shown in condition 16, a 10-foot wide type B buffer will be provided around the amenity area. Originally, planning board asked for that to be a type B. It was a type C, and they've made adjustments to that based on planning board feedback. UDO section 7.5, open space requires 1,750 square feet of open space per single-family dwelling. And then out of that, 75% of it needs to be passive, 25% has to be improved park space, and a third needs to be considered active. The applicant's providing overall 38 acres of open space. They're only required to give us 11. The applicant's providing a multi-use athletic field that can be used for multiple activities. It's roughly a size of 1 acre, so it could be used for soccer, any pickup matches, could be used for community events like an egg hunt. I mean, it's a large multi-use field. The applicant's also proposing an amenity area that will provide walking trails, picnic tables, and a gazebo. Streams and wetlands. Current plan does not show the location of the streams and wetlands. The 100-year floodplain runs along the eastern of the site. Wetlands, a pond stream, run through the middle of the site and are buffered and incorporated into the design of the neighborhood. The exact wetlands impacted will be determined when construction drawings are submitted per the UDO. Phasing, the current plan shows 3 phases. The multi-use athletic field will be constructed in phase 1, and the amenity center area will be in phase 2. Streets, Town of Wendell, collector map identifies Lake Glad as a future collector, 3-lane undivided. A 3-lane undivided roadway contains a 79-foot right-of-way, 12-foot travel lanes, 3 of those, 5-foot bike lanes, 6-foot sidewalks, and street trees. The property contains roughly 1,200 feet of road frontage on both sides, so it'll actually get a full build-out of that 1,200-foot section. They need to dedicate the right-of-way and construct all those road improvements. Streets, Town of Wendell UDO requires a street connectivity index of 1.4. And this is where we look at how are the streets connected to each other and to Lake Glad. So their score is a 1.61, which is higher than required. The street layout does contain 2 access points to Lake Glad, 7 stub connections to neighboring properties, and the internal streets are well connected to each other. Also on there, the applicant's providing off-street parking spaces near the multi-use athletic field, the mail kiosk / amenity center as well. UDO section 16.11 requires that traffic impact analysis be done for any development that exceeds 100 peak hour trips per day. TIA was conducted in 2019, updated in 2021 for the proposed 276 lot development and is included as attachment C in your packet. The TIA is phased related to the development plan. Phase 1 of the TIA includes a 500-foot left turn lane from northbound Eagle Rock Road onto westbound Wendell Falls Parkway. Also includes a 75-foot left turn lane from southbound Eagle Rock Road onto eastbound Wendell Falls Parkway, and many site turn lanes into the development. And the next slide does have an image of that. This is a significant improvements for traffic at that intersection, which is probably our most contentious traffic problem, is that intersection of Eagle Rock and Wendell Falls Parkway. So this will provide significant improvements to that intersection. Phase 2 of the TIA also includes a 100-foot left turn lane from southbound Eagle Rock onto eastbound Old Nowell Road. Here's the images from the traffic impact analysis, which has been approved by NCDOT. You can see it's a 500-foot left turn from southbound Eagle Rock onto westbound Wendell Falls Parkway, and then the 75-foot left turn onto inbound Wendell Falls Parkway into town. This 100-foot turn lane here that you see in a different hash is being provided by a different development, the Eagle Rise community. So between the Eagle Rise and this community, we're getting some much needed turn lanes here at that intersection. Phase 2 also shows the turn lane onto Old Nowell Road, and then this is the site turn lanes that would be required into the neighborhood in multiple directions. And their consultant is here to answer any questions on the TIA that you may have. The Wendell Comprehensive Plan defines this area as S3 restricted growth sector. Restricted growth, lands that are not proximate to thoroughfares that are not projected to be high growth areas due to limited access to transportation. Generally, the S3 areas are outside of the short-range urban service area for water and sewer. In this case, the area is classified as short-range and does have access to water and sewer. Appropriate uses include low-density cluster, a clustering of buildings around a rural crossroads, single-family residential, very limited convenience retail, civic, parks, schools, religious, and government uses, and some industrial. The applicant's only proposing single-family residential, which is less impactful than some other uses that they could propose. It is single-family. It's identified use in the S3. The area is within our short-range urban service area and has utilities nearby. Planning Board action at their September 20th, 21 meeting, the Planning Board voted 6-0 on the motion to approve the requested conditional district with the following condition. As I mentioned earlier, condition 16 was a type C buffer. Planning Board asked if that could be a type B, and the applicant did make that request, that change. Statement of comprehensive plan consistency and reasonableness. Any recommended change to the zoning map should be accompanied by a statement explaining how the change is consistent. The requested zoning map amendment is consistent with the uses outlined in the Wendell Comprehensive Land Use Plan for the S3 sector and is reasonable in that it supports Principle 6, provide for a range in housing opportunities, including upscale, senior housing, and downtown living choices. As I mentioned, Technical Review Committee has completed the review of the applicant's master plan, and the applicants made corrections based on those comments. Additional review would occur upon submittal of construction drawings, which is the final development plan for conditional district. Staff, the proposed development is consistent with the comp plan, and staff recommends approval of the conditional district. I can field any questions that you may have.
Okay, let's open the public hearing. Questions from the board?
I have a lot of issues with the whole proposal, but I want to come back to the traffic impact analysis. Adding these turning lanes at Eagle Rock and Wendell Falls Parkway, that's going to entail widening Eagle Rock Road. Have any of the property owners up there been notified of this?
I can let the applicant answer that question. Not from the town of Wendell, but I'll let them answer the question.
Josh Ranke, 5808 Farrington Place, Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm with Ramey Kemp and Associates. I perform the traffic impact analysis. I believe, and the site team, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not in the design phase of that. Essentially, the TIA is completed, DOT's completed its review. They say here's what's required before you start building your houses. There will need to be design done for those turn lanes up there. And at that point, we'd see if improvements go outside the right-of-way, then you would have to contact those individuals that would be impacted. And like I said, I'm not doing the design. I know that would be necessary, so it could be something that if you do symmetrical widening, things like that, it could be kept within the right-of-way. I'm not sure regarding that, but it is something that definitely would need to happen as it goes through the design and the driveway permits and all that would go before DOT again. So they've essentially reviewed the TIA, that is the recommendations. They say we agree with or we require this additional to. That will then go into the driveway permit where they'd have some design sketches and such.
I completely understand. Thank you. To me, if people are upset that they're only getting a week notification for an annexation, they're going to be really upset when they find out they're losing their backyards for a turning lane that was basically is going to be required based on a project that we approved in the past. That is absolutely, I can assure you, and I know from personal experience, that Eagle Rock Road and that intersection needs some significant improvements. What I don't want to happen is for those improvements to happen before the people around there have any sort of input in what goes on with that. But I mean, I understand that traffic backs up sometimes a half of a mile in the mornings trying to get out that way. But doing these improvements with no input from the people who live there, I mean, this intersection is a mile and a half probably from this project. And to have no input from the people who live right around that intersection, I'm not comfortable with that. And if approving this project means approving perhaps these improvements to that intersection, then I cannot be behind this project until that feedback from the people who live in that area is taken into consideration. And that's just from the transportation impact analysis. You know, that's not even talking about what's happening in the neighborhood proper. So I just wanted to get some clarification on that.
Mm-hmm. So just for clarification on that, like I said, you know, this is something that the design would have to be looked at by DOT. I won't say they don't happen. There are very rare cases where DOT would actually do condemnation. So a lot of times what we see is a required improvement. If the right-of-way is not available, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the DOT, but if it's not available, they might look at some sort of design exception, what can get that mitigation that they wanted. I know these improvements, a lot of this has to do with traffic coming up from Johnston County and turning left there, that it's an existing issue. I've seen what goes on out there. I know that any development that goes in, DOT is requiring that turn lane of any other development that's going in, saying this is what we'd like out there. There is potential, if there are right-of-way issues, to look at some other sort of design, and you know, that would be done. Once again, completely understand. I don't know if that calms the fears, but it's not just they come in and take the land because that turn lane. They would have to approach the landowners out there, and if the right-of-way is impacted where it goes outside the right-of-way.
We understand the process. It's just there's a cart and there's a horse, and
They're on order.
yeah, one of them's missing is what's happening. They're not out of order. One of them's missing. So.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
So I've got a comment, and so I'd be the flip of Commissioner Boyette, but for different reasons. And if you handed me a pot of money tomorrow and said, where can you make transportation improvements, the Eagle Rock Road intersection would be the place that I'd want to make improvements. And that's the part of the planning board. I didn't get to listen to the whole planning board meeting, but the part of the planning board meeting that I was able to listen to, there was conversation about this being moved. I don't know, I completely understand not going in somebody's backyard. But that said, if we haven't already, we need to reach out to those folks and go ahead and let them know that, hey, this intersection is going to get bigger, because part of the selling point of this project for me is the infrastructure improvements that are gonna happen at Eagle Rock Road and all the way back. And I certainly, appreciate that view, but I could never vote against it. Like, I'm the flip. I would vote, the improvements to that intersection at Eagle Rock, are a strong incentive for me. And certainly think that we can let those folks know, but I would go ahead and mail them a letter that just says, starting today and ending when we make the improvement, we're gonna be attempting to make an improvement here. Let's go ahead and get that part ironed out. That's my only comment, Madam Mayor.
Let's talk about the road through the front yards. I believe we heard from one of the men here tonight that there was a road through his yard.
Oh, yeah, give me one
I tried to
second.
make notes of different things people said. One was buffers and,
That's the F that he would have to sell.
Come on, the stub.
Yeah, the stub ends well before the property line, and then there's the 20-foot buffer, and then there's a gap, and then their cul-de-sac. So the road does not end in his yard. It doesn't even come close to the property line. They're actually gonna have to pay a fee in lieu, because we require it to go to the property line, and they're not doing that.
So the road is on the plan to come out in the width, like, correct?
No, it ends like 60 feet before the property line that you're on. Yeah, so there's a stub street there for F, but it doesn't go to the property line. It doesn't come close to touching the gentleman's property. It ends like 50, 60 feet before that.
that road would be put in, like we have stub streets all over town. Should there be development at some point in the future, the owner said no, there wouldn't be, but we still, our UDO requires that we have developers put those in case,
Yeah,
of the
so
chance that
if
that would
the-
become available to increase our chances of connectivity.
So if the two cul-de-sacs at the, two lots at the end of that cul-de-sac were to ever sell and someone said, I'm gonna redevelop them and I wanna build 3 houses there, we would require the connection to Street F at that time when there's redevelopment.
But where the stub out goes, it stops, what did you say, 50 feet before it would get to that?
Yeah, there's a 20-foot buffer along there, and then the street ends at roughly 20, 30 feet before there,
Okay,
before the buffer.
okay. Another question was, I believe it was Ms. Todd, 60-foot easement. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so the easement is civil matter between the property owners. I can have the applicant talk about that easement. They're planning to give them access on 2 other streets to not have the property landlocked, but I can let the applicant give a little more detail of that. Because it's not a town requirement, it's a civil matter between the 2 property owners.
Hello again. Robbie Bell, Bass, Nixon, Kennedy, 6310 Chapel Hill Road. After talking to Mrs. White the other day on the phone, I think what we can do is there's 9 lots. If you can see these 9 lots right here, we can shift those in and we can stay completely out of her 60-foot ingress-egress easement. It's these 9 lots, where's the lamp to the mouse? I don't know if you count them, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We can shift those back. We can still have the stub street over, we need to have that stub street over to Mr. Jones's property to access his. And then back here, we've got 3 more access points that we're required to provide. And we can put a security fence across there and give Mrs. White the key to it if she ever wants to access if she ever wants to abandon the path that meanders on and off the properties, she can have access to these public streets in the future. And that way her land would not be landlocked.
Okay.
Actually, there's four points. 1, 2, 3, 4. She has 4 streets.
All right, well, I think we need to leave that to y'all to work out
Sure.
prior to our
Sure.
next meeting. And,
And-
also, I believe she mentioned the sewer easement. Was that separate?
That sewer easement, we have, the sewer easement you see right here where the cursor is,
Right?
we have shifted that inside the property line. I've actually designed a profile. We've dug pits there to check for rock. We're actually 4 to 5 feet below the invert of Buffalo Creek. It's a 20-inch casing that will be bored underneath the stream. That way there's no environmental impact to that stream at all. The Corps loves that. It's very expensive. We're looking at probably, quite a bit of money. And while I'm on that note, the water line that we were talking about earlier, we're actually going all the way up to the wastewater treatment plant and tapping that 8 up there and bringing a 12 down. We're going to have to replace that 6-inch that goes down to Blair. It is undersized. I'm surprised they even had the fire flow in that area, so.
Okay, the sewer easement that you have on this diagram, though, is where this is inaccurate now.
Right, that is
Correct?
inaccurate.
'Cause we're gonna need that to be fixed on what comes back in 2 weeks or
Right,
whatever.
I have sent I think I sent you, I
Okay.
sent staff a copy of that.
All right. And let's see, was that everything?
I think there was a mention, of,
Well, density.
Can I speak just a second? I mean, this is, we can move the sewer lines and the easements, but, this is a similar problem we've had in other areas of town where we're talking about putting a real high density in the area where we're affecting citizens that don't vote for us.
Next thing on my list.
Yeah, so, and I had a problem with that when this was back around Rollsville Road time, and first off, even if all of the Blair Hills area was all annexed into town limits, to me, this still just is incredibly inconsistent with what's around. And so I have a hard time with approving anything, that doesn't bring, a lot of upside to an area where people aren't really a fan of it. And so if you put this development in here, and it was, similar home size and lot sizes, and it was, a similar layout to such a nice neighborhood that Blair Hills is, I feel like that'd be much more in playing with what's around it. And so, the way it's designed now is, it's putting a very high density in what I would consider kind of the far reaches of our area right now, and putting a high density development there now, I think only lays the groundwork for continued similar developments from there on out towards the county line. And to me, I've said it before on the board, but at some point, ladies and gentlemen, we've got to start kind of figuring out where we're going to mix up some of our housing types. And if it's not somewhere like this, I don't know where it's going to be. So
I understand, we are looking at 2.25 units per acre. There is a lot of open space. It probably wouldn't hurt to just show all the green on there that's open space. Matter of fact, over 50% of our lots back up to open space. I've been in this occupation over 40 years. I've never had a subdivision that had so many lots backing up to open space, on this project here. The wetlands are in the green. What you're seeing in the green is actually field-located wetlands. The rest of it is open space that's not in the lots.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's 2.5. Low density in most towns is 3 or less units per acre is low density.
And I don't even think it matters what it's like in other areas either. It's what's speaking to the kind of what's in this area here. And that's where I'm looking at. Like we've seen other developments come through that have been probably more dense than this, and we've been okay with them because of where they're located. And I think this is one of those times where,
sure.
If we'd heard from 9 people tonight who were all coming in and just thumbs up and clapping and cheering for this,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'd feel a little differently, but my initial reaction in looking at it was this seems weird, and then when I hear them come talk about it too, it just confirms that for me. So.
Right. And I understand the people value their land. It's probably been in their families for a long time. I came from a tobacco farm in Pitt County. We've got land that's been in our family for decades, centuries, and I understand what they're. But at some point, this is a great opportunity for other landowners there to get a great value out of their property. And, you know, we're shelling out a lot of infrastructure on this that's not gonna be capable of being put in, not unless you, well, a lot of other land comes together to be developed. So I guess it'll just remain.
Yeah, it might.
Right, would anyone like to speak?
Name and address again, and second
Yep.
here.
Let's
Dan
hear it.
Edwards, 155 Lutom. The person who spoke earlier, Ms. White, is my sister-in-law. I'd like to ask the commissioners, did the planning department of the town of Wendell provide you with a copy of my sister-in-law's recorded easement for this property? It's page 396, deed book 3692, page 7. Did the planning board provide you in your packet with this document?
I don't think so.
She provided she provided the planning department with this document last Thursday or Friday. So Mr. Bell says that her property meanders her easement up there. That easement is straight as an arrow. It goes across the easement to Mr. Jones's property and proceeds past her property. I'd like to give the clerk or whoever needs this, maybe Mr. Collins needs to review it, to submit to the record a copy of her easement. Mr. Bell obviously paid no attention to it because it does not meander, it's straight. He can't put anything on it, and the access to Mr. Jones's property is also through it. So I don't know what goes with that, I'm not an attorney. Once again, the 3 points, and Mayor, let me ask a question. If we didn't approve the annexation tonight, we're having a public hearing on the rezoning. So is this the public hearing for the rezoning also?
Yes.
So
We'll
if
take
you
them
come
both
back
up.
in 2 weeks, you'll vote on both of these, correct?
In the order of annexation
Okay.
first and then second.
My points are the same as they were before. This plan submitted by Mr. Bell and Bass County Nixon is riddled with inaccuracies and fallacies that have not been corrected. The main one is this easement. I find it hard to believe that the technical review committee of whoever that is and whatever they do at the town of Wendell, when it's referenced on the plan, didn't look at it and review it. Maybe you should do what Ronald Reagan said when he was dealing with Gorbachev with the Russians. If you trust, you need to verify, and obviously nobody is verifying it. It seems to be pretty obvious that the technical review committee is pretty lax in looking at this. So I think the plan has a lot of inaccuracies. They need to be corrected before anything comes back and before you vote on any rezoning. I also find it hard to believe that if you want this corridor to develop, why would you promote sewer going on the backside, not going down Lake Glad Road? I thought years ago Wendell had a provision that if you had road frontage, you had to continuously provide sewer to the end of your property. I don't know what the rule is on it, but it would seem to me that it would be in the town's best interest to do that. Once again, the other point I made was there is nothing adjacent to this piece of property that is even close to the density of zoning being requested here, except on the back side. Once again, you have the discretion to rezone the property. Do you rezone it continuous since it's not a continuous annexation, with thought being given to what's adjacent to it, or you just give this gentleman the maximum density and let them go ahead and annex it? The thought process seems to me that I'll fill in the blanks later, annex it, give me the maximum density. The same statement I made before. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Can I please have the written comments submitted as part of this hearing that I said previously tonight?
Mayor, I'd suggest you incorporate the comments from both hearings into both matters. Is it, because they're...
Yeah.
The written comments that I made orally in the hearing.
Yeah, that's fine. She can pass those up. But,
Yeah, you can pass those out.
These matters tend to get blurred.
We're dancing back and forth. We have been the whole time, and part of it is because of the need to annex it before you can hear, and so it kind of goes back and forth.
The applicant typically in these situations doesn't want you to approve annexation unless you're going to approve
That's right.
rezoning, and you can't approve rezoning unless
you know. I know, it's kind of messy. Yes, sir, would you like to add something?
Madam Mayor, before anybody else speaks, can we not take shots at, so, and I understand that there may not be an understanding of all the different committees and all the different places, but we have staff that work incredibly hard, so if we could not direct comments towards staff, that would be great. That's a board policy and something we normally ascribe to.
I think in people's frustration about things,
Yeah, no, that's just why I reminded everybody.
thank you for the reminder, but I think in people's frustrations about things, sometimes these things have to be said. Yes, sir.
It's more of a question.
Could you come up here?
Don Whitworth, 835 Lake Glad Road. I just really would like to hear the town planner comment on why there's not a uniform buffer from end to end on the development.
Okay.
So the buffer is different based on neighboring properties. Our UDO does not require a buffer between residential and farmland. It does require a 20-foot buffer between existing residential neighborhoods and something that's more intense. Staff classified this proposal, even though it's residential, and Combe Court is residential, there is a difference in density and intensity. So we did require the 20-foot buffer along the northern side. The UDO does not allow us to just add buffers if it's not required or if there's not a clause in there. The applicant did take the type C buffer that was proposed around the open space and the farmland. That was a condition that they gave us, not a requirement. And then they upped that to a type B. So that's why there's a difference in buffers on the project.
All right, are there any more comments from citizens? Any more comments from the board?
I do have a question, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The 9 lots in question that are inside of the current easement, I believe we heard that they would be willing to shift those.
To get them off the easement.
Yeah, and again, this is just the eyeball test looking at it. I don't see that that's going to create lots that are, I mean, sure, they might be usable, but they certainly wouldn't be a part of the rest of the development. Is that something that, instead of moving the line, is that something that they're prepared just to do away with?
I don't want to speak for the developer, but my assumption was is they would drop a lot from the north side of that four-way intersection. They'd drop a lot, shift the whole street up. That was my assumption. But like I said, I don't want to speak for the developer, but yeah, you can't cut those lots in half to open up the backside of that easement and those still be, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Drop 2 to 3 lots on the north side of that. There you go. To push the whole thing up.
Losing a few there. And I do want to shift gears a little bit. I had a question about lots 53 through 59. Double frontage.
Mm-hmm.
Explain that to me, please, sir.
Yeah, so there are lots that are right here. So on paper, it looks like they have access to Lake Glad or Street C. The condition is forcing that the driveways have to be Street C. So if, for example, in which the developer is planning to keep the development, but if they were to ever sell it or flip it to another builder, the builder could think that they could get driveways on Lake Glad, but that's not the case with the zoning condition.
So double frontage on Lake Glad, which puts it further away from Lake Glad, or double frontage on the front side of the lot, which is?
So the lot fronts on Lake Glad and Street C. The driveways will have to be Street C, so the front of the homes will be Street C.
Okay.
And then there's a 10-foot street yard buffer in the back. But it's just for clarification that no driveways can be on Lake Glad.
Okay.
We don't really want driveways on 79-foot thoroughfare or collector roads, and that's kind of been our policy on quite a few developments, is we don't want lots of driveways. They're supposed to carry traffic from neighborhood to neighborhood, so we try to limit driveways on those roads.
And then, you mentioned multi-use athletic field, approximately 1 acre, and then an amenity center. What exactly does the amenity center consist of?
Currently, it's, gazebo, picnic area, kind of open field space. They still haven't determined if they would add additional. I can let the developer answer that if they have any other details to share.
And the reason I ask that is, you know, if we got 270-plus homes with a 1 acre field, you know, what else are we providing there in an area that doesn't have a lot of park space currently?
Good evening. My name is Rich Taylor. I'm with True Homes. We're the developer and builder here. Thank you for the time to address your question regarding the amenities. What we have planned, because of the large amount of open space that and relatively low density in this community, is to do more passive recreation, like a tot lot, gazebo, walking trails through the open space that exists there. We have over 38 acres of open space. And so that's our plan for amenities for this project.
Now, is that, I mean, do we, and I know we're getting way ahead here, so I apologize, but, I mean, we're talking paved trails?
They would be walking trails that would be built for use as a walking trail. So probably mulch or something that'll be maintained. All of the open space will be owned and maintained by a homeowners association that will be set up by True Homes.
And you're probably the person I can ask this question to. Vinyl accent material, 20% of the home, and I don't remember the slide, stone, vinyl accent material. What would that actually?
Typically on our facades and what we're offering as conditions here is a raised foundation with a parged or masonry finish at least 12 inches above the ground, so it's not slab on grade. In addition to that, what we're looking to do, and what we typically do, is have anywhere from 40 to 60% of the front and part way down the sides be masonry. That could be rock or brick or some type of accent material that we typically put on our houses.
And this question this may be a Mr. Coates question. Side setbacks on the lots? Sorry if I'm jumping around.
Yeah, UDO requires a 20% of the lot width. So if the lot's 50 feet, it would be 10 feet total. You could do 6 on one side, 4 on another. They're proposing 10% on each side. So if the lot's 50, it would be at least 5 on each side is the minimum. If it's a 60-foot lot, then it would be 6 feet on each side at the minimum.
I need clarification on that. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And I guess now's the time for me to say that there's a reason why I am a proponent of the wait until the next meeting to vote. I think we've, you know, certainly coming into this meeting tonight, hearing some of the comments, you know, 10 days certainly to be thrown into something like this, it becomes a very emotional thing. I have said all along, Commissioner Joyner even hinted at it, that, you know, again, for me, if it's 10 days, 10 weeks, or 10 months, you know, as long as we get it right. I'm all about being efficient, but, you know, I want to get it right. So, appreciate the patience tonight. I know there's been a little bit of confusion, but you know, we take these two things together, and yeah, I think the thought of revisiting this in 2 weeks to vote is important. So, thank you for your patience.
Anyone else from the board have anything to say?
We got a hand up there.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Wayne Norris. I live at 207 Wyeth Lane, Wendell. And I agree with everything that's been said here tonight from the citizens that live in this general area. Something that I do want to bring up that I'm not very good at is I'm not an educator, but if we have this type of zoning to take place in Wendell, we need to consider our schools and the impact that we're going to have with that. So, and I'm not an educator, but I've been married to an educator for years. So I think it's important to consider that as well. I don't see this type of development as in Wendell's interest, to be quite honest with you. There's many reasons, and I've heard mentioned about the inconsistencies here. I've been in the business world working for some pretty big companies my entire working career. And for some companies, if we had one inconsistency, we put this thing off until we got it right. And I'd ask you to consider that. In addition, just looking at this map, if you think it's hard getting out of Eagle Rock Road on Wendell Falls, you got the same thing right here, twice a day at least. People down toward Buffalo Creek trying to get out to Lake Glad Road, and then people in Blair Hills, as well as everybody else trying to get on the highway. You got roughly 500 cars trying to get out here in the morning, or if not more. So there's a lot to consider here, especially on the zoning. So I'd like for you to consider that as well. But again, I think something that's overlooked a lot in Wendell is our education system and how these type of developments will impact not only the parties that would be living here, but the people that's living here in Wendell now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? I do want to mention real quickly to Commissioner Joyner's comment. I know that we have a policy about addressing staff and citizen boards and TRC and things like that, but I also understand the frustration of the parties that are here tonight. We are looking at a plan that needs a lot of work, and I feel like it should have come to us in a lot better shape. It didn't take easements into consideration. They're not accurate on the map. It didn't, it requires road improvements that are over a mile away, and those people haven't been informed. There are no specifics about the amenities. It just seems to be a lot of, well, I think we're going to do this, and I think we're going to do that, and maybe I can do this and that. And I just think that things need to come here in better shape than that, and I'm surprised, honestly. Okay, is there anything else from the board? If not, close the public hearing. And we need a motion to table this till
Madam Mayor? Motion to table this to the November the 8th meeting.
All right, we have a motion to table this for until November 8th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have no administrative items tonight. Our other business is an update on board committees by town board members. First one is Campo. Let's see. At Campo this past week, we held a public hearing and approved the Wake Transit Art funding eligibility policy pending no adverse and actionable public comments. That's the first time we've ever done it that way. We received information about the I-440 widening project. This is particularly interesting to me. It's the widest and oldest, it's the oldest, rather, section of the Beltline. There's going to be a lot of changes, so You may have already noticed some of the changes on the bridges at Wade Avenue and so forth. So get ready. I saw some pictures from above. It was very interesting to look at where they've already started to create and move the earth, and you can see where the roads are going to be and some of the bridges and things. We received information and assembled a working group of executive board members to represent Campo in commuter rail cost share and financing discussions. We received information about Amendment 6 to the fiscal year 2020-2029 Transportation Improvement Plan. We received information about the 2022 Unified Plan Work Program Amendment 1 and about the 2050 Metropolitan Plan update. We get that every time. We had a variety of updates about member shares, operating budget, and project updates, public engagement updates, and some staff reports. In addition to that, we've been going hard at Campo here lately. We had a board retreat this past Friday from 9 to 3. It's the first one that's been held since I've been the Campo representative. It was real interesting. We evaluated, reviewed, and adjusted the Campo functions and accomplishments and our annual work program. We discussed our successes, the area and special host hotspot studies, lab projects, regional and statewide partner coordination, local programs and project support, training for executive board and TTC, and that's where our staff member attends, and ours is Brian Coates. Mobility coordination, safe routes to school, 2014 strategic focus areas, which was the date of the last retreat, so they reviewed those and discussed how well they had achieved those goals. Discussed internal strengths and our vision for the future and how that measures against the vision statement. There was a lot of discussion about engagement with town boards and the availability of a mini Campo 101 for town boards. And so guess what? I'd like to schedule that for us here. I think maybe after the first of the year would be a good time to think about that, possibly in conjunction with our annual retreat or possibly at another time. I'm not sure the length of time that they do for that. Up until this time, our engagement with Campo and having projects with them has been very limited, if not non-existent, because frankly, we didn't have the funding to provide for our matching portion of it. But we started working in a real way with them, and we actually have a project right now, and we plan for that, and we need to get that information as a board so that we can start thinking about them and get in that mindset moving forward. So I would like us to get that going so we can all hear what Campo is all about. Okay, the next one is the Eastern Wake Senior Center, Commissioner Deloach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We met this past Friday. It was, again, a virtual meeting, so it took place on Friday. Nomination / election of new board members for the Senior Center. Discussion about upcoming events. Obviously, there's been some struggles holding events due to COVID, capacity, that kind of thing. So I think everybody's excited just to kind of turn the calendar and crank up in 2022. First meeting, first of the year, we'll discuss more of the upcoming events, fundraisers, that type of thing. Again, that stuff's been canceled recently, so the thought is to try to crank that stuff up in the spring. Senior strutters, which they were missing from our Harvest Festival this year. It's fun to hear how excited they are to get out in front of folks again. So mark your calendars, December 3rd at Wendell Wonderland. The Senior Strutters will be performing. So excited about that. Again, everybody was great, supportive of the town and everything that's going on. So real excited to be a part of that group and looking forward to cranking up a little more normalcy in events in 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move into our commissioners' comments, and as our tradition, we'll start with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I didn't realize that was a tradition.
Let me just interrupt you. We do it, and people ask me all the time, we do it that way because it makes it easier for the Eastway TV people to know where we're starting every time. So if y'all like to trade around, we can do that, but we need to make that.
I'm happy to continue with tradition.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple things, obviously upcoming fun things, Trick or Treat Trail. It's always amazingly fun, and I don't know about you, but I've ordered my 2,000 Blue Pops. So looking forward to that. Also, saw a comment last week that I just thought was quite fitting in a lot of ways, and then it's kind of what provoked me earlier to say, hey, say whatever you want, but just don't say it directly to staff. And this is, in whatever you do, be kind. I really don't think that that's a hard lift, but it certainly, as someone who works every day in a public policy arena where I try to persuade people to do things like improve PTAs and our education space, I can say that being kind is always a good first step, and that was where my comment came from earlier. All of that is really irrelevant because day before yesterday at 2:51 p.m. on October 23rd, Aniston James Joyner was born. Mama and baby are at home. I actually dropped them off about 3 hours ago at home and left to come to a board meeting. So I say doing well 3 hours ago. Very grateful. It was a amazing thing to witness, and also a very cool feeling as we pulled down past where the new entrance to the new town hall and new park will be, to look back and tell my daughter, welcome home, and that it's a great place and you're going to love it. Looking forward to watching her grow up here, and looking forward to getting to be girl dad times two. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Lutz?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, just congratulations to Commissioner Joyner. I mean, the guy's still wearing his hospital bracelet on his wrist, and so, I mean, I don't want to, knock my dedication to this, but, I mean, 3 hours ago, I probably don't know how to be here either, so that's kudos to you. Next Tuesday is Election Day. I always encourage everybody to get out and voice their vote every year. As the town grows, it's nice to see more and more participation in the elections. Just bear with me for just a second. For a personal note, if you didn't know, I'm up for re-election this year. If you haven't seen my signs, also come see me at the office because you need your eyes checked. So I have had it's been a true pleasure of mine to serve on this board for the past 8 years. When I first started with Commissioner Boyette, there was very little opposition to us, so we got on very easily. And there's been a little more opposition each time, and even the greatest this time. It has not swayed my interest or my passion for this. I feel like in my time here, I've learned a lot, and I feel like I bring a very calm, reasonable, logical voice to this board, and I work hard, and I work well with whoever is going to be sitting up here with me. I encourage you all to go out and vote. If it's for myself, I will be very thankful and grateful. If it's for Commissioner Joyner or for any of the other applicants, I would also be very grateful for that too as well. I just want you to get out and voice your concern, or voice just let your thoughts be heard. If you have not had a chance to have a discussion with me, I'm still open. We can talk, we can email, or voice phone calls are always welcome. This Friday is the Trick or Treat Trail. I will be out there at space number 50, so if you want to stop by and try to identify me in my costume, you're welcome to. And then this Thursday at 6 o'clock, I will be holding my last Meet the Candidate series at the farmhouse. And so that'll be the farmhouse at Wendell Falls. So if you would like to come out and introduce yourself or have any questions, I'm always open for that. That's all, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Boyette?
Knowing how hard your wife works on your campaign, I have to imagine that she thought of that "get your eyes checked" joke.
That's actually mine.
You've been holding on to that one for a while.
Yeah, 4 years.
Congratulations to Commissioner Joyner on the addition to their family. It's always an exciting time, to grow your family. I had a lot of the same feelings, when my first and second were born, and I also looking forward, to raising them here in the Wendell area. I'm not running for reelection, for a couple of reasons. I did have someone say they were gonna write my name in. Do not do that. I'm not gonna sit up here and make a Sherman-esque statement, but please vote for the people who are running. You know, think about the candidates, research their positions. I can tell you that these two are some of the most thoughtful and put in very hard work into what they do, into the decisions they make. They're much better politicians than I am, I'll be honest. I would also encourage everybody to get out and vote, and vote for people that are running. Do not write my name in. That's not gonna work. There was something else. Oh, yes. I always think of this as everyone's walking out the door. A lot of people say they don't, they only had this much time, or it was a real short amount of time. Never hesitate to call, either before the meeting or after. Never hesitate to call or send an email to reach out to us. All our contact information is on the town website. Stop by and ask a staff member for our phone number. Our phone numbers are public record. My address is public record. Come knock on my door. I've been waiting for you. I'm sorry, Mayor. So anyway, reach out if you want to continue to talk about something. If you feel like you didn't want to get up here and speak into the mic in front of everybody, or you want to make your position known, feel free to reach out to any or all of us. That's what we're here for, is to take in and do the public's work, do the citizens' work. So, thank you, Mayor.
Excuse me, Commissioner Deloach.
Thank you, Madam. I do want to point out that I'm not sitting in timeout down here. There's a lot of social distancing going on right now, and I just want to say, good seeing you. Congrats, Commissioner Joyner. Girl, dad ×2, and I will go on record as saying, sorry guys, but my two daughters are infinitely more fun than my two boys. So I said it. I'm probably getting a text right now. So tree trail upcoming, obviously. Prior to that, I will say from 4 to 6 in front of Wendell United Methodist Church, I'm going to be setting up a shop for a shot clinic. This will be the third one that we've done. So we'll be doing vaccine again from 4 to 6 this coming Friday on the 29th. We've done it 2 other times. We've administered 40 plus shots the last 2 times. So very appreciative for the support. I want to thank my pharmacist friends, Eastern Carolina Medical Center, for helping out with that. So you can swing by between 4 and 6, and you still have time to head to the tree trail. Election Day, obviously, upcoming Tuesday, November 2nd. Main thing is just get out and vote. If you haven't done it already, make sure you do it. 2 of my fellow commissioners here, they're seeking re-election, so I wish you guys the best of luck. I appreciate you. You know that. Again, Commissioner Boyette pointed out, you guys add value always, thoughtful always, and easy to talk to. So I tell folks all the time, sometimes maybe it seems like we all agree. There's a lot that goes on around that. We don't always agree, but we do always take time for each other to talk about things, and we make time to work through stuff. So I appreciate that, and good luck to you guys. A couple of reminders too, bags that you heard Errol discuss. They dropped off this past Saturday. Fill those bags up, non-perishable food items. They will be picked up this coming Saturday. They'll be split amongst the food pantries here in Wendell. So great cause for that. If you forget, don't worry. Reach out there are plenty of volunteers around this town that, are happy to assist in that, so. And then also a reminder, it was mentioned briefly, tonight, but your first, leaf pickup will be next Monday, so keep that in mind as well. Get those leaves out to the curb. Madam Mayor.
I'm one of the forgetters almost every year. I know who to call. I have a couple things I want to talk about, and I'm going to try not to keep everybody too late. But since our last meeting a couple of weeks ago, Eastern Wake County has suffered the loss of some important community members, and I want to talk about that a few minutes. The first was former Roseville Mayor Frank Eagles. Frank had a huge personality, those of you that know him or knew him, and an even bigger heart. He embraced me and brought me into the fold of the Wake County Mayors Association. It was a group that had very little change in membership for quite some time, just one here or there when I first was elected, and made me feel part of the group. He was a straight talker, and I found that refreshing and counted him among my friends, and I miss him, and I'll miss our visits. He used to come text me and tell me he was getting his hair cut. He got his hair cut in Wendell, and to meet him for coffee afterwards. And so we did that very numerous times. He had been dealing with some health issues, but his passing did come as a surprise and wasn't quite expected just yet. He fought hard for Eastern Wake County in addition to Roseville, and had a servant's heart and couldn't stand the thought of anyone being hungry or needing something. He served on countless boards and committees to combat food insecurity in the area, and once retired and during COVID, and had continued until very recently, I'm told, he continued to deliver every single day, 7 days a week, driving all over, delivering meals to those in need, and I mean hundreds of meals, not 5 or 6 meals a day. He did hundreds of meals a day, and he told me specifically that everybody just didn't know where all the places were to go. So he will certainly be missed. The other is Knightdale Police Officer Ryan Hayworth, who was killed in duty serving the citizens of Knightdale. He was in the Army National Guard and was still serving as a specialist. He served in Kuwait during Operation Enduring Freedom and was awarded the Army Commendation Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, the Humanitarian Service Medal, the Army Service Ribbon, the Overseas Service Ribbon, and the Armed Forces Service Medal. Ryan's father is retired Zebulon Police Chief Tim Hayworth. So as you can see, this has been a devastating loss for all of Eastern Wake County, not just Knightdale. I want to thank our police officers who stepped up and filled in gaps and may be continuing to do that during this difficult time. Police officers are very close. They're a tight group and they all know each other. And I was very proud of the fact that ours stepped up and stepped in during a time where they were probably having to process what had taken place themselves, you know, and the fact that they are in danger standing on the side of the road helping somebody in the middle of the night, and that this can happen. So I've received a couple of calls thanking our police. I'm very proud of their efforts, so if you'd please pass that along again for me. These were two great men, and that we were lucky to have them on our side here in Eastern Wake County, and their example shows us what we're all capable of. We're all capable of service and of doing great things for others that leave an impact on us. And I'm struck by the fact that one of them was 75 and one 23, but did great things that we still remember and will continue to remember. So that's something to think about. I was invited to attend this past weekend the ribbon cutting at the Sandy Pines Nature Preserve. It was this past Saturday morning. Sandy Pines Nature Preserve is located at 7201 Proctor Road in Wendell, just off Edgemont Road. Got a couple things I want to tell you about it. It's a 563-acre preserve of forests and fields, the largest single tract of land owned by Wake County Parks, Recreation, and Open Space in the county. It has 6.5 miles of walking and equestrian trails through a variety of habitats, pine forests, hardwood forests, creeks, a pond, open fields, and picnic areas. And, for equestrian-specific things, it has pull-through parking for trailers, eye hooks to tie up your horses, gravel parking areas, hoof-friendly trails, mounting blocks and benches located along the trails. And one thing I found real interesting is the signs and maps along the trails are horse height, so they're the height that you can read if you're sitting on a horse. I thought that was real interesting. Huh?
It says horses can't read.
No, but people can read if they're on the horse. We're gonna miss you. So I want to thank Wake County and Wake County Parks and Recreation Open Space and Chris Snow for bringing such a wonderful amenity to us here. It's just fabulous. If you haven't been, I urge you to go out and check it out. I also want to thank the Marriott Proctor families whose willingness to work with Wake County to make all this happen. This is such a tremendous legacy for their family. It will be there forever. It will always be open space, and it's something they can sure be proud of. We now in this area have Turnip Seed Nature Preserve, which is 265 acres. It has trails, unique rock outcrops, wetlands, a variety of wildlife. We have Robertson Mill Pond Preserve, which is 85 acres, the Blackwater Cypress Gum Swamp with paddling trails, fishing, wildlife, and a historic landmark. And now Sandy Pines Preserve, which is 563 acres. That's 913 total acres right here. So I'm really particularly proud of that, and they've all come online in the last, I don't know, 5 years maybe. So that's all exciting stuff here. Quick reminders that you've already heard, the treat trail's coming up Friday from 5 to 8. Come out there and see us. I believe you can still sign up for a spot on the trail as a vendor up until 12 p.m. on October 29th. Prepackaged candy, business cards, pencils, logo items, and things like that. It's a good opportunity to showcase your business. Also, another reminder, Public Works is going to be conducting leaf pickup season starting November 1st. Residents can still call in for one of their special pickups. You get 3 per year, and the yard waste bins will continue to be picked up during that time. So place your excess leaves on the curb away from storm drains, and they'll be picked up. The pickup dates are November 1st and 8th, December 6th and 13th, and January 3rd and 10th. And some more information can be found at the town's website about that. And one last thing, there's been some concern about the length of time. I've gotten a couple emails between the pickups, I hope that folks realize that in these dates being chosen, the staff was trying to fit this in around Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's holidays. So they will monitor it and adjust it. If adjustments need to be made, possibly, they'll be discussed. And because we monitor everything that we do, and we tweak it if we need to. So let's see how that goes this year. If you find that you need them picked up again, you can use one of your 3 pickups. All right, we were going to potentially have a closed session. I assume we're not. You had mentioned to me we may. Okay, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.
Love seeing you fellas. I'd love to hang out.